It's always a pleasure to be here. A lot of sporting action happened over the weekend, specifically in the UEFA Nations League. And as Mike has said, boxing, we saw Mike Tyson and what's his name? Jake Paul. So we're here to assess a few of the sporting action that happened over the weekend. So welcome and enjoy.
Yes, enjoy, because we have a lot in store for you. But on that note, still follow us on our social media platforms, because this broadcast is live on our Facebook page at EBN TV and also our YouTube page. So air your comments and your reactions onto our pages, and we'll surely read them as we go on. Today we are in Manu is absent, and also Teddy they were not able to come because Manu is still doing his studies, students. Yeah. But of course, nothing will be short of what is scoreboard is always. So brace yourself for an amazing show. Now, as I said, we are going to start from here, back here at home, and a lot of things happened this week, especially this weekend, whereby first of all, on Friday, Harambee Stars were playing against Zimbabwe on the African Cup of Nations qualifiers, which will be taking place in Morocco next year, that is 2025. And Harambee Stars are looking to maybe to get a spot in the qualification round, because in the group stage, whereby in a group stage there are 4 teams there. We had Cameroon, we have Namibia, Harambee Stars, and Zimbabwe, who are fighting for the top 2 spots. And unfortunately for our country, that is the Harambee Stars, they were not able to qualify for the tournament, finishing on the 3rd spot with 5 points. And the teams that went through to the next round are Cameroon and Zimbabwe. Namibia also were taken out because they only managed to get a point out of the 4 games. But Harambee Stars still has a game against Namibia. So what do you make of that game whereby we failed to qualify? It ended in a 1-1 all draw. Yeah. So what did you make of that game, Rodney?
Going into the game, I feel like the hope was already lost. We pretty much knew that our fate was sealed, and that we basically had no position in the qualifiers. But overall, I feel like they tried their best. In as much as they didn't really get their win, they managed to get a draw, which is, again, it's a bit conflicting, a bit 50-50. You're not really sure if you can congratulate them for that performance, because ideally a win would have been better, but
exactly,
at least they tried. They didn't lose, so good work to them. But hopefully we can see a bit more improvement as they go on with other competitions. But
okay, first of all, let us talk about the wider qualification round or the group stage. Do you think they underperformed as much as we expected, to our expectation? Because I feel like I didn't see a team that would have posed a problem to Harambee Stars apart from Cameroon. Because if you're talking about Zimbabwe, that's not a very formidable team that you can say will be a threat to Harambee Stars. When you talk about Namibia, of course, they are at their worst run of form. What did you make of of everything, like every other game that that Harambee Stars played? Because out of the 5 games, they won only 1, drew 3, and lost 2. How do you make of that performance, especially the home and away loss to Cameroon? That was very much disappointing to us as the fans of this great nation.
I feel like Kenya greatly underperformed, because even at the very beginning of the competition, we had very high hopes for them. As you said, you look at the group, we had Cameroon, we had Zimbabwe, and we had Namibia, who, out of these 3 teams, I feel like the biggest competitor in that group is Cameroon.
Yeah.
That was the one team that I genuinely feel like would put up a bit of a fight against Kenya and give us a bit of competition. But the rest, I feel like it could have or should have been a straight win for Team Kenya. But unfortunately, we kind of struggled against even the lesser teams, who are Zimbabwe and Namibia. So it kind of put us in a very difficult position. And at the very end of the competition, we were unable to get a position in the qualification group.
Yes, we were able to get a position in the qualification group. But I think, where do you think the problem was with this team? Because I feel like most people would want to put a blame on the coach, especially on this particular game where we drew 1-1 with Zimbabwe. The fact that this Zimbabwe is the team that we beat on the first leg. And the most crucial match of this group stage, whereby we needed a win, at least to give us hopes for qualification, we come out with the draw. Who do you think is what do you think is the problem? Was it the coach or the players? And I was looking at the lineup of the players that started off. I think there was a little bit of controversy even if based on the feedback we got from the fans at large. I was looking at the lineup here. We had Brian Omondi as the goalkeeper, of course, Daniel Anyembe, Johnston Omurwa, Joseph Okumu, Abud Omar, Anthony Akumu, Amos Nondi, Eric Ouma, Ronnie Onyango, Jonah Ayunga, and Michael Olunga. Now, looking at that squad, on paper it's a very good squad. It's one of the best squads we can line up in as far as Harambee Stars is concerned. But now, the arrangement of the players, I was looking at such a lineup, the gameplay, I felt like there's some people who are played out of position. There's some players, especially when you talk about Anyembe, Amos Nondi. These are the players, they were played out of position. And if you look at this particular lineup here, I think it was more of a defensive lineup as opposed to an attacking lineup, because I feel like in this particular game where we needed goals to make sure we get a qualification spot, we needed to put our best foot forward and just attack, despite the fact that we were away. What do you make of it?
The biggest issue, if I can say that, is that as you brought out, the rotation that was done in that match especially was a bit unexpected. And I feel like it's kind of took a toll on the team, because ideally you want a team that is kind of used to each other. And especially in such a crucial stage of the competition, you want your best team, you want your best foot forward as you go into that kind of game. So putting using rotation in that kind of game was a bit unexpected. And I feel like it might have taken a toll on the team, because the team, maybe they are they had their own idea of how they would have played for that game, and now coming into the game, the coach decided otherwise. But either way, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. But ideally, I feel like they should have stuck with whoever the manager, or if we can say so, the best team. If we can, he should have put his best team at the pitch, and it kind of cost them. Even though they drew, ideally 3 points would have been better for them.
Definitely 3 points would have been better, because it would have given us hope. Because if we had won that game and defeated Namibia, which maybe is the weakest team in this particular group, then we would have qualified. And maybe depended on Zimbabwe managing a draw with Cameroon. And especially this one point here, one particular player that people felt like he would have started that game, because if you watch that game, it lacked a lot of creativity up front. And one of the most creative players we have in Harambee Stars, Austin Odhiambo, the Gor Mahia player, started on the bench, which was very questionable for many fans to this game. And if you ask the coach, maybe he was saying maybe it was something tactical, which I don't understand why you would drop, maybe put Austin Odhiambo in the bench, start him off at the bench, and you wanted creativity and a lot of goals up front. So these are some of the controversial decisions the coach made that maybe worked against him. And now the fact that he did not bring out the performance that people were expecting, it now brings down a toll on him. It now brings a pressure on him now. And on Saturday, there was some calls of the fans calling for the sacking of the coach. People felt like it is high time maybe Engin Firat was relieved of his duties. And to an extent, I feel maybe their call for the sacking of the coach is justified, because we've not had the best of performances when it comes to Harambee Stars since he took over. We've had a little hope, some aspects of maybe hope, but now we cannot just hang on to hope every day as we go on, because we need to see this team perform. He's been here for the longest time. Maybe in recent times he's been the longest performing coach. Sorry, the longest serving coach in this particular team. And by now I feel like he need to have known his best 11 in each particular game, and coming out with such performances and failing to qualify for the AFCON, whereby our neighbors have qualified. When you talk about Uganda has qualified already. Tanzania is on the brink of qualifying. So this is something that is so sad for Kenyans because we are a football-loving nation, and of course we are always behind our team, Harambee Stars, and being disappointed in day out because the last African Cup of Nations we didn't qualify because of the ban from FIFA. This is one of the chances that we needed to maybe to rub those tears of the last time, and we still failed to qualify. This is something that of course the fans will be calling for the blood of the coach. And do you think it's justified? Do you think it is high time Engin Firat was relieved of his duties?
It's a very valid call, considering that he's been here for, I think, 3 years. And during his tenure, Kenya haven't really had something substantial that we can say we've achieved these kind of heights and we've done A, B, C, D. We're now out of the AFCON competition, and now it puts him, first of all, in a very tough position. There's a lot of pressure now on him because if you now go down and sit with the board, you don't really have anything on your, let's say, CV that you can say, okay, I did this for Kenya, I did A, B, C, D. He doesn't have any major achievements for our country, which is a bit unfortunate for him. So should the board decide to fire him, it is justified, and hopefully we can get someone who is going to put us back in the top competitions once again and kind of bring up our team, because I feel like we have a very good and a very talented team. We have a lot of young players as well as the experienced players in our team who should be ideally putting us and challenging for the top trophies. So hopefully we can, should they decide to fire him, hopefully we can get someone who can put them to good use and kind of bring us back to our glory days.
Definitely, if it comes to that, I think we should. But this one, I feel that there are some talks here about a particular stumbling block whereby, if at all the FKF has to sack Firat, then they owe him a lot of money. Maybe one that they won't be able, to to pay him at the time of his sacking. It will bring problems because we are just from some problems some years ago and just getting another problem. Maybe it's a stumbling block for the FKF to sack him. But still, either way, we need to see a change. And do you think it is high time we put trust in our local coaches, because we've had a number of foreign coaches and it hasn't worked for us? What do you think about having a local coach taking mantle of the Harambee Stars?
If we can get someone who has the sort of experience to take advantage of the kind of talent we have, I wouldn't mind having a local coach. If you are to kind of take a peek at whatever is happening in South Africa, you see a number of local coaches who are very good at whatever they are doing. You look at the performance of their teams in their local leagues and they perform very well. Even we had Benny McCarthy, who was at Manchester United, who was a South African coach, and you can see the kind of talent or the kind of intelligence that he had as a manager now being exported to international leagues. So I personally wouldn't mind having a local coach taking up the position of the team manager.
Okay, those are the sentiments of Rodney in regards to having at least a local coach. And I would want to hear your say, or just your contribution to this particular topic. Do you think it is high time the Harambee Stars trusted a local coach? Because we have seen foreign coaches come in and go. We've seen Paul Put as at a point now the coach of the Ugandan coach right now who has made them qualify. He was once a Harambee Stars coach, came in, didn't perform well, went away. We've seen like a good number, and now we have Engin Firat whose performances maybe are not satisfying to the fans. And do you think it is high time we trusted our local coaches for the top job at the Harambee Stars? Air in your views on our Facebook page or on our YouTube page. We are at EBN on both pages, both YouTube and Facebook. So air in your views. We want to hear what you have to say about the Harambee Stars trusting, putting their trust on a local coach. So have your say, and we'll surely read them. And we'll be glad to have you on board. Now, apart from that, there were some games because there was no game as far as the Kenya Premier League men's side was, but on the female side, there were some games that were played during the weekend, and I'm just here to quote some few, whereby Bungoma Queens and the Ulinzi Stars ended in a 2-2 draw. That is for the FKF Premier League women side. Vihiga Queens drew with Bunyore Stars on a 0-0 draw. Wadadia lost 6-0 to Kenya Police. It is the biggest win by Kenya Police Bullets. 6-0 win. That is very good of them, and something that they can be so much proud of. So, Mombasa Olympic 2, Zitex Sparks 3, Trinity Starlets 1, Kisped Queens 0, Kisumu All Stars 0, Kibera Soccer Women 1. Those were the results of the FKF Women Premier League that happened this weekend. Now, on to the league table of the women football in the FKF. We have the team on the top of the table is Kibera Soccer Women, playing 6 games and having 13 points, followed by Trinity Starlets. Yeah, Trinity Starlets. Sorry, I'm checking on something here. Yes, Trinity Starlets on the second position, 5 games, 12 points. Kenya Police Bullets now come in third, played 6 games and on to with 11 points. We on the fourth position lies Vihiga Queens FC with 5 games and 11 points. We have then followed by Bungoma Queens FC, 6 games, 10 points. Zitex Sparks, Kisumu All Stars, Ulinzi Starlets, Kisped Queens, Mombasa Olympics, Wadadia, and tying at the bottom of the league are Bunyore Starlets. That is the league table and the results of the Kenya FKF Women Premier League after the weekend fixtures to our viewers. Now, that is it on the local league. Unless there's something. There's also some mentions of Mara Sugar. There is something that happened through last week from Fridays. There's something has been trending about Mara Sugar. Now, their technical director, Boniface Ambani, was fired. Apparently, Mara Sugar put it onto their pages, telling their fans that they had agreed to terminate the contract of Boniface Ambani, who's the technical director. But the funny thing is that Boniface and Ambani did not know of this, because according to what he says and according to what he put on his social media, that he had lost his phones. So, but by the time of his sacking, he was not aware. So literally, there was no agreement that we are going to release you from your contract as a technical director. It was just decided from the board. And basing on his sentiments, or Boniface Ambani's sentiments, he says that there are some things that were happening in that team that he was not agreeable to, or he was not agreeing with. So they had to fire him because of that. Because he says he saw it coming, though, despite the fact that he did not know that he was getting sacked on that particular day, but he saw it coming because he felt like there are some things that were happening in the team that he was not agreeing with. And I feel like this is lack of professionalism, because if you're going to fire somebody from his post in a team, then it should be something that is agreeable with both of you. You should hold a meeting, agree to terminate his contract, and people live in a happy mood or in a good mood. But firing somebody without him knowing, what does that make you feel? Or what picture does it bring to the public about the professionalism of our teams?
It is a very poor picture, and it's, again, as you've said, it's a huge, a massive show of lack of professionalism, if I can say so, because ideally in the corporate world, whenever you're offered a contract, you sit down and you agree on your terms and you sign it, fully knowing whatever is written on your contract. And in the same case, when you decide to terminate someone's contract, you have to sit down and inform them that you've come to the decision that you're relieving them of their duties. So having that happen, maybe discovering that you've been fired on social media or something like that, it's a very poor picture for our league. So hopefully they can work on that and kind of fix things. I'm not sure if he'll get his job back, but I feel like maybe if they've decided now to completely release him, maybe they should seriously work on the communication and whatever they do behind the scenes. Exactly,
because I feel like Boniface Ambani has done so much for Mara Sugar, making sure that it is known outside there, because he's one of the reasons why people got to know about Mara Sugar. He's one of the reasons why Mara Sugar got the promotion, because he's one of the people in this footballing fraternity in Kenya that has done so much for the football in this nation. He was once the coach to the FC Leopards Cubs, the young team of FC Leopards, the academy of FC Leopards. He did amazing work. Some of the players that he brought up is Austin Odhiambo, the Gor Mahia player, one of the best players we have in this nation. And he has done a lot of work for the Kenyan football and every team that he's been part of, and I feel like it's a loss for Marashuga, and that's why I feel like professionalism, we should not be reacting on emotions when we are running maybe things like clubs or any entity, because I feel like sometimes the decisions you make can be a very big problem to the fraternity that you are heading. And I feel this one is a very big loss for Marashuga, and even if you ask any other fan there, this is a very big loss for them, and I hope he comes back home. When I talk about home, I mean FC Leopards, because we love him back at FC Leopards. So I wish he would come back home. And I know he's an amazing man. He has done so much. I don't know him personally, but I've reviewed his work, the work he has done in football, from being a player to now delving into coaching and in my football management. I think he's done so much and a marvelous work. So I believe he'll be coming back home. I think FC Leopards should be taking a step forward to making sure they bring him home. And talking about FC Leopards, this coming weekend, the biggest game on Kenyan soil, the biggest derby ever on Kenyan soil, the FC Leopards versus Gor Mahia is going to take place at Nyayo Stadium. This is one of the fixtures that everybody looks up. Every football lover in this country always look up to, because this is one of the most fierce games to ever play, or to take fixture to take place in this soil, in our country soil. So, Mashemeji derby this weekend. One of the biggest highlights of football in this country, and which charges me up, which just makes me so happy to be part of, because I feel like this is one of the games that everybody should be looking forward to. What do you make of this game? Because I feel like it's going to, and if you look at maybe even the stage that is being played on Nyayo Stadium, I think it'll be the first game of the renovation of Nyayo Stadium, the first game that will take place there. What do you make of the Mashemeji derby, first of all? What do you feel about it coming at this time of the season?
It is definitely a highly anticipated match, and I personally look forward to it. I'm very interested to see how Gor Mahia perform. I wouldn't call myself a fan, but I think that's the one team that I follow up on a lot in the Kenyan Premier League. So I'm interested to see how they'll perform. Ideally, if I was to compare these two teams, FC Leopards are currently 5th in the Kenya Premier League with 11 points, and Gor Mahia are 12th with 8 points. So both of these teams haven't had the best of their starts to the season. And it will be interesting to see who is going to really turn up to that match, and how exactly these two teams are going to go head to head and perform in that game. But hopefully we get a very good performance from either team. I'm hoping Gor Mahia can at least get a win and go back to competing at the top of the league, because they're currently in a very poor position, if I can say so, for a team of their size. And having come from other competitions, hopefully they've learned a few things and they can come back and keep up with good form.
I think I'm going to be direct level to Rodney, because I'm a born FC Leopards fan. Not just I was born into FC Leopards. So for me, I feel like this is a game whereby FC Leopards needs to bring out its claws. The Leopard needs to take out its claws and just make sure they come out with 3 points, not even a draw. This is a game that needs 3 points from FC Leopards, because in the recent derbies, the Mashemeji derby, Gor Mahia has been coming out on top, has been winning a lot of games in the recent times, and I feel like this is the time for FC Leopards to rise up to the occasion and just win this game for the sake of the sanity of the fans, because I know Gor Mahia sacked their coach last week. The Brazilian man was sacked liver. And so the interim coach will be on the stand, on the dugout. But for FC Leopards, I feel like the fact that they have not been performing satisfactorily according to the fans, I feel this is the game that they should be rising up to the occasion and winning it for the sake of the coach. Because everybody will be judging him according to this game. And because they have been complaining for almost the 3 past fixtures whereby FC Leopards have been underperforming, and now this is a game whereby the coach Truka should just make sure that he comes out to the win, so as to get that pressure out of his back in the coming game. Because of course he has survived the sack. Because the moment the fans lose trust in a coach, then the coach means that the coach is hanging on a very thin line. So I feel like this is a game that Thomas Tuchel should make sure that his boys are very well and able and prepared enough to make sure they come out with a win. And Gor Mahia, being that they are not performing well does not mean that they are not going to be a threat to FC Leopards, because this is a derby game.
Yeah.
And this is a game that you don't know how, you might never know the outcome. A team might not be performing, but when it comes to a derby, everybody wants to be a man.
Yeah.
And this is a game whereby I feel like Gor Mahia will be coming with the arsenals ready to cock and just firing. And I feel like this is going to be a very beautiful game, a very tough game. And from the fans' point of view, I feel like this is a game, the atmosphere at Nyayo is going to be very much charged. And I feel this is a game that I feel like the turnout should be very massive. I feel like from either teams, the fan base should just come out and make sure that the atmosphere in Nairobi should be green and blue.
Yeah.
From every corner of the country, whether you are in Mombasa or Bungoma or Nyanza, just border bus come and watch this amazing feat, because I feel like this whereby the football of Kenya is gauged on upon the games, upon this game, this Mashemeji derby. So I feel like the fans should come out in large numbers to make sure they support their subsequent teams and make sure that they give these boys, the players, the support they need. And I feel like this is a game whereby FC Leopards is going to turn up in large numbers. I feel like, as a fan, of course, if it will be, I will go to that game. I'll try to make sure I attend that game. It will be at 4 East African time at Nyayo Stadium. At 4. On 24th of November, which will be on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Many people will not be at work. So please make sure if you get a chance, make sure you make your way at Nyayo Stadium and make sure you be part of this history that will be going to be written. Of course, FC Leopards is going to win. So it's time for FC Leopards to make history and just defeat these guys. Because literally, like traditionally, Nyayo Stadium is a home stadium for FC Leopards. So Gor Mahia cannot just come to our home and beat us. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
They have to respect the hosts. So definitely this is a game that I believe FC Leopards is going to win, and win convincingly. I hope so and I pray so.
Yeah, my only hope is that we're not going to witness some of the violence that we've been seeing.
Oh yeah, true.
Especially going back a few years ago, we would see some not so pleasing scenes in the Mashemeji derbies, and even this season we've had a few scenes of violence occurrences in some of the Premier League matches, but hopefully this weekend we can see a bit more calm and composure from our fans, especially. Just go there, enjoy the game, and whatever happens, accept the result and move on to the next game.
Definitely, whatever happens, we must learn to accept the results, because at the end of the day, in a football match or in any competition, there must be a winner and a loser. You know, so let us learn to accept. It is football. The purpose of football is entertainment. So go there to be entertained. Do not hurt your friend because of football. Because at the end of the day, we need to encourage people to turn out for these matches. But if hooliganism is part of our game, that it will scare away the fans, and it will be a problem to the club, because it will not be getting the collection revenue. Yeah. So I feel like anybody who goes to that match, make sure you go there on a very sober mind, to make sure that you're just going there to be entertained. Support your team, but do not let violence not be part of the support that we need. You don't need that in our football. And talking about football, there's something that happened during the weekend, and especially after the Harambee Stars game. You know Kenneth Muguna is a Harambee Stars player and a Kenya Police player also. He put out a comment about something that happened on one of the media stations, and he said that it is high time the media stations employ former players to be football analysts in this country, because it feels like these other analysts who just come out of nowhere, they're not doing what is needed for us. They are not up to the task to be analysts in football matters in Kenya, and it brought about mixed reactions from different people. And personally, I feel like he might have a point, of course, but not entirely, because I feel like it doesn't mean that there are other people who do not play football but are still passionate about football and take their time to study football, and they're up to the task to be analysts. Or what's your take on that?
Ideally, I'd prefer if we had, let's say, different perspectives from different people. It would be nice if we would have the perspective of former players who know the ins and outs of football clubs, but we also need the perspective of someone who can see from the outside, someone who can highlight the things that maybe a football player might not necessarily be focusing on. So okay, as you said, he is right. So on one hand, it's a bit of a controversial take, if you can say so. It's a bit 50-50. On one hand, he's right, but on the other, I kind of disagree with him.
Yes. Let us take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with the sentiments of from Rodney. So let us go on a very short break. Don't touch that dial, please, and don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms. This broadcast is live on Facebook and on YouTube at EBN TV. See you in a few.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
From Nairobi, Kenya, this is EBN TV.
Hebrews 12:14. My soul pays with all people and the holiness, without which no one will see the Lord.
The suffering, the death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ made our redemption possible.
Bible says,
Biblia inasema,
and they brought young children to him,
basi wakamletea watoto wadogo
that he should touch them,
ili awaguse,
and his disciples rebuked those that brought them.
wanafunzi wake wakawakemea.
And I pray today that in the name of Jesus, you shall mark this date, because this day shall mark the beginning of the end of your captivity, and you are turning around, because God sends you a prophet when you are among the captives.
Many of us today are in rebellion against God. There are many who are living in rebellion against God, in rebellion against goodness, in rebellion against the word.
The salvation of God only comes when you stand still, when you stop your murmuring, when you stop your grumbling, when you stop speaking that negative talk.
I want you to know that the anointing of God is breaking every yoke of bondage.
From Nairobi, Kenya, this is EBN TV.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
Welcome back, our dearest viewers. Before we went on a break, Rodney was finishing up on some sentiments about the utterances by Kenneth Muguna, about whereby he says that it is high time these media houses employed former football players or current football players to analyze this football, especially the football in this country. So, what were your sentiments about it?
So, as I was saying, I would prefer a scenario where we have mixed personalities in the media stations, if I can say so, where we have either former players who can bring in their perspectives from the ins and outs of football clubs, but as well as other personalities who might not be within the football fraternity, but are, let's say, fans or who have football in their best interest. We have, for example, in the Premier League, you have the likes of Gary Neville, who is a former player, but you also still have other analysts who might not necessarily have played or featured in the football field, but who participate in the media stations, who come in and bring in the different perspectives. You have, I saw a scenario where a Nigerian musician who's called Joe Boy, who participated in one of the talk shows in Nigeria, a football talk show. So he might not necessarily be a football player, but he brings in a certain perspective to such kind of shows. So I would not necessarily agree or disagree with him, but it's a vital point he brought up. But ideally, I'd prefer if we had these mixed or balanced personalities over there.
I think maybe he was speaking from a point of disappointment by the people who analyze football, because I feel like after the knockout of Harambee Stars from the AFCON, there's some people who came out blazing about the players and everything about Harambee Stars, and that's why I think he was speaking from a point of frustrations by how they were being called out by some of these media stations, especially the people who analyze football. And that's maybe, I think maybe he was just angry about something. And okay, you are right or not, depending on what everybody sees about everybody's view about it. But I feel like not only footballers love football. Yeah, some of us are just fans. Okay, I played football during my young years when I was still young, but it doesn't mean that the fact that maybe I played football, I'm fit enough to analyze football. There's some players who cannot even, are not, maybe are camera shy. So I feel like anybody who is up to the task, whether played football or not, I think anybody who is up to the task is capable of doing the work, that work. Let footballers, I'm not against footballers being taking up the work of being analysts, but I feel like anybody who is up to the task, then it's good enough for it. And I'm here, I'm saying here also, I know I'm helping some people here. I'm not saying Teddy, I'm just saying some people. Now, like I promised you, when we come back, we'll be going now to, we'll be flying overseas now to the other part of the world, whereby there was a lot of games, especially on the UEFA Nations League, that took place or took part there during the past week. Because I told you that we were on an international break, and there was a notable games that played, especially on the UEFA Nations League. There was down in South America or Americas as a whole, in Africa as a whole, because in Africa there was the African Cup of Nations qualifiers that were played on the African continent, but still in Europe there was the UEFA Nations League that was continuing. And do you have the results of the games that took place last week?
Yeah.
Please help us on that.
So on Thursday we had Italy, who beat Belgium 1-0. We had France, who drew 0-0 against Israel. We had on Friday Spain, who beat Denmark 2-1. Portugal beat Poland 5-1. Scotland won 1-0 against Croatia. And then Switzerland drew 1-1 against Serbia. On Saturday, Germany won 7-0 against Bosnia. Netherlands beat Hungary 4-0. And then yesterday, Israel beat Belgium 1-0. And then France won 3-1 against Italy.
Good. Now, there's a match that shocked me a lot, the Belgium game against Israel. I want to talk about that match. What has come of Belgium? Because I feel like in the recent times, it has not been performing well. Not just this game. There's a couple of games in this Nations League that didn't perform so well. What is the problem with Belgium at the moment? Because it's one of the teams that I feel like it has a lot of talent. When you talk about the Van Winkel, we have people like Lukaku, we have... So I feel like, what is the problem with Belgium right now? Because this is one of the teams that people are speaking about the golden generation a few years back, and it is falling drastically. What is happening to Belgium?
They clearly have a bit of an issue at the moment because they've lost 2 games in a row now. They lost against Israel yesterday and then Italy on Thursday, if I'm not wrong. So clearly there is a bit of an issue over there, and could be managerial, could be tactically the kind of players they have, because they're kind of struggling with a bit of an injury crisis at the moment. They lost, I think, Trossard yesterday, who was removed because of an injury in the 37th minute. And De Bruyne has obviously had a few injuries here and there, and he's one of their key players. So could be these are some of the issues that are taking a toll on their team. But ideally, Belgium are one of the clubs who should be at the very top and competing with one of the with some of the top clubs in the international leagues. At the moment, they sit third in their group, and I know the format was changed, so now there's a relegation playoff. So they still have a chance to qualify, but ideally this is a team that should be getting a straight qualification, not necessarily having to go through the relegation competition.
Especially, definitely true, because Belgium, not in a million years, however, could I foresee a Belgium side losing against Israel. It shocked me, really shocked me. And there's this Italy against France, whereby I felt like Italy. What is wrong with Italy? Was France too strong for Italy, or Italy just underperformed in this particular game? They lost 3-1.
It was an interesting game, a very end-to-end match. But I feel like ideally the best team won. France were the best team, if I can say so. They were the one team that completely turned up, and they scored very good goals. I think all of them were pretty good goals. It was a brace from Adrien Rabiot and a free kick from Luca Digne. So these were very good goals, and I can hand it over to France because they kind of had a momentary struggle at some point, but they've found their form and they've picked up and gone back to where they were, considering that they won the World Cup a few years ago. So hopefully they can get a repeat of that and hopefully add another trophy to their cabinet.
Definitely. Let us talk. Let's now because I'm going maybe fast a little bit, because I feel like there's so many things. There's so much to talk about here. England against Republic of Ireland. One of the games that I felt like it was going to be a very tough game. With the history of England and Ireland, I felt like it was going to be a tough game. But it turned out that England came out with a very convincing win of 5-0 against Ireland. But of course, basing the fact that Ireland got a red card. Ireland had held them to a point until they got that red card, and everything changed after that. What do you make of that game?
As you've said, it was a bit boring, especially in the first half. There was no too much action from either side, and I feel like there were two teams who are of equal strength, especially in the first half. But now going into the second half, of course, the red card had a part to play. Now England completely turned up and changed the game. We had, I think, 4 different goal scorers, 4 or 5, and overall a good win for them. This is a team that is as well struggling with injury issues. We saw a number of players pulling out from the team because of injuries, and it was a bit of a concern for them, because you look at a team like England, who are missing, let's say, their key players, who are ideally their first 11, pulling out because of injury. It was a bit of a concern for them. But luckily, they're one of the teams who can say they have a bunch of talent who can just easily slot in and pick up from wherever their counterparts were left off.
Amazing. Now, there's one thing that I feel like we should talk about here because of one particular player. The game between Norway and Kazakhstan. I think, did Norway get their easiest fixture yet, or what do you make of this game? Because they came out with a 5-0 scoreline against Kazakhstan, and of course Haaland scoring a hat-trick from this match. This is not the Haaland that we see back in England. I think in the recent past we've seen Haaland flopping in a lot of games, and coming now to the international games and he's scoring a hat-trick. What do you make of that game, and particularly let's talk about Haaland? When does Haaland show up?
As much as we can say that maybe it was an easy fixture for him or for the team in general, it's not necessarily guaranteed that you can perform at that stage, because we see some top players who go internationally and they just ghost. They don't have as much of an impact as you can say, in the Premier League. So it's a good performance from him. Ideally, he has, I think, over 50 international goals now. So it shows just how much of a prolific goal scorer he is, and at least when his country needs him to turn up, he can at least provide those goals for his country. And in as much as Kazakhstan might not be one of the, let's say, the big countries, we can't really downplay them, because for them to qualify, to play for that stage, it's a huge achievement for them.
But where has this Haaland been in the last couple of matches at Man City? Because you have not seen the hunger for goals. You have not seen him perform or score enough goals back at his club, at the club level. Where is this Haaland at Man City right now? Because I feel like at Man City is very much underperforming. You can say maybe the factor that Kevin De Bruyne has been injured for the longest time, and maybe some players are not around Man City, but I feel like we don't have a Kevin De Bruyne in Norway. We don't have Rodri in Norway. So, like, what is the problem when it comes now to the club football for Haaland?
Could be a fitness issue, perhaps, but ideally there's this thing that people keep bringing up, that Man City players are not system players. Whenever they are outside the Man City setting or club, they tend to either underperform or just they don't fit into other systems. But I think Haaland is kind of breaking that rule. And he's showing that he doesn't necessarily need the Pep system to kind of shine. Over in the Premier League, either the teams might have just learned how to defend him, defend from him, or he was just having one of those days, because it happens to each and every player. We wake up one day and you try everything, but it simply just doesn't work. And now that he's had this short international break, now coming back into the Premier League, hopefully he can carry on whatever form he had during these few matches.
Hopefully he's going to up his game for the Man City team, but of course not now, because I think we have a match against them as Manchester United. So I feel like he should continue the club for some time after maybe after Manchester game he can do that. But then we're not scared of Haaland now. Those were the results of last week or this past weekend in the UEFA Nations League. But now, today is match day 6, whereby some games also are expected to take place. We have a game against Croatia, will be playing against Portugal. Poland will be playing against Scotland. We have a game, Serbia playing against Denmark. Spain will be playing against Switzerland. Kosovo will be playing against Lithuania. Romania will take to the stage with Cyprus. Bulgaria will be playing against Belarus. Luxembourg will be playing against Northern Ireland. And Liechtenstein will be playing against San Marino. That is the match day 6 that is expected to take place today. So, looking at these fixtures here, I would like us to talk about the match Spain against Switzerland, Serbia against Denmark, and Croatia against Portugal. I think those are some of the notable games or big games that are expected here, because I feel like a game Liechtenstein against San Marino, both two underdogs, but I feel like Liechtenstein will always win, because San Marino has never won a game in Europe. I'm sorry to say that. Maybe only 1-1. I think this is a game they won the other day. Has only one game in Europe since the inception. So I think here this is going to be very easy for Liechtenstein. Let us start with Croatia against Portugal. A very huge game with notable names in terms of the squad players. What do you make of this particular game, Croatia against Portugal?
Very interesting match. Two very good teams, and as you said, very notable names in either squad. And we've seen Portugal performing very well, especially in this competition. We've seen Ronaldo obviously shining, our captain Bruno Fernandes, and over on the Croatia side you have the likes of Luka Modric, you have Kovacic. So these are two teams who are, let's say, at the top of the map in terms of football, and it's a game that I'm really looking forward to. I'm very interested to see the kind of lineups that are going to be picked by either side, and if I was to predict, I feel like Portugal will get a win, but it's not going to be an easy win. Maybe a 1-0, 2-1 win. And yeah, it's a match that I'm personally really looking forward to.
But I feel like there's something I forgot and I feel like I should mention. Germany against Bosnia, they had a 7-star performance. I don't know how that was, as that one has crossed my mind and has just gone off. I think I should. Of course, Germany is doing well. The Bayern factor. No, when Bayern is performing, Germany will perform. Yeah. Basically, so that's basically it. There's nothing much to say there. Netherlands also defeating Hungary 4-0. I think there was a lot of very big scorelines in this particular weekend in regards to this UEFA Nations League. I think people are just rejuvenated and teams are just trying to show up. And talking about now the Portugal against Croatia match. Croatia coming from a win. Both teams coming from a win. Yeah. And a very good performance from Modric from the Croatian side in the last game, and he was one of the best players on the pitch, despite his age. And of course, Cristiano, the other factor. Yeah. This all in the age 39 and scoring, especially for Cristiano, scoring that bicycle kick. I was shocked to see that person at 39-year-old who is almost 14 in some couple of months, scoring such a bicycle kick and just it's easy for him. Yeah. Talk about Cristiano. What is Cristiano doing that other players are not doing in this generation in the past? Because right now he's on 910 goals. Yeah. Totally, the player with the most goals since football inception. What can you say about Cristiano? What is he doing differently that other people are not doing?
I think it comes down to his lifestyle, if you can say so. He tends to take care of his body in a way that a number of players don't do necessarily. You look at how he trains. You look at how he takes his, let's say, his vacations. He's not necessarily going out there partying and doing whatever. He's kind of just trying to relax and repair his body, not going out there, out and about. And considering that he's playing at, let's say, the topmost level of football, internationally, that is, at his age, it's quite commendable, because ideally for most players, once they hit 35, 36, they start looking at retirement.
Exactly.
Or they just go to a lower league, either in the US or now Saudi is now a bit more popular. They just go there to play for a few years and then retire. But for him, doing this at such an age is quite commendable, and I hope some of the younger players can kind of pick a few things from him so that they can elongate their careers in football.
And I think they should, but it will be very, very difficult for the current players, because I feel like the more time goes, the more players become softer and weaker and become whiners. They whine a lot on the pitch, and I feel like the players right now are built differently from the players of yesteryears, because I feel like the players of yesteryears were stronger. They were so much into football. The current play is so much focused on partying and just making a lot of money. Like literally, they're taking football. That passion for football, I think, is dying. Yeah. I think unless you're talking about players like Yamal, I feel like maybe he's reviving that. But like 90%, 98% of the players right now who are playing right now, I think they're doing it for the money and the lucrative life that it brings about being a football player. And I feel like Cristiano Ronaldo is one of the players that every player should be looking up to. They should be emulating. And the longevity that is Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, of course, we've seen a lot of competition in these two guys. And okay, I don't want to talk about the competition between Ronaldo and Messi. I'm just touching on it because I think players should be looking at these players and just doing what should be taking care of their bodies. Because I feel like a player right now wants to come out of the game, go clubbing the whole night, come back in the morning and train. Of course, the body is getting weaker. The more the toxins that you put into your body, they reduce the years of your playing career. Yeah. Look at a player like Neymar right now. A very good player, but struggling to play because maybe his body is not conditioned maybe to sustain maybe a whole season of play. And so many notable players like that. We have people like, I feel like we are losing that culture. We are losing those warriors at the pitch. We are losing that passion of football right now. And it's so sad because I feel like as the yesterday generation is dying, are retiring, we are looking at a future that is very much uncertain because people will be money-oriented. People are looking up to money than football. And talking of Cristiano, he's one of the top scorers at the Euros, right now on 5 goals, tying with Gyökeres, Sesko. Yeah, they're tying 5 goals each, followed by Haaland, who has 4 goals, Isak with 4, Kerem, That tough game, tough name. 4 goals and Marin 4 goals. Now, a player at 39 years old, this is a player that should be looking at retirement. And I'm not just talking about Cristiano, also looking at Modric also. If I fail to touch on that. A player at 39 years still being trusted by the national team. You're being called to each and every game. And still performs, bring out the performances. I think it's phenomenal. Can we say that Cristiano is the greatest player to ever come out of the world? Or what can you say about that?
I think you're mentioning that because he's a former Manchester United
I'm not
player,
doing that. No, I'm just saying because I've touched on his career, I've touched on his longevity, I've touched on the performances on the pitch. I'm basing on that, not because he's a former player of Manchester United. No, I'm a very neutral guy.
I do agree. He's up there with one of football's greatest, because there's been a number of names over there. We have even Messi is part of the debate.
Definitely.
And okay, I'm not one of the people who tries to separate these two and say Ronaldo is the best or Messi is the best. I feel like these are two completely different individuals who have achieved massive achievements in their careers, and we can't necessarily try to compare these two. So for both of them, these are massive players, and now once they get to, let's say, retirement, I don't know if we can ever get players who can kind of replicate this kind of performances now going onwards, but hopefully we can get a few more talents to kind of bring back that sort of debate, that sort of Ronaldo, Messi, GOAT debate.
Yeah, definitely, and I think people have started mentioning about Yamal, and I feel like he's coming up so well and doing so well for his team despite that young age. He's 17, right?
Yeah,
17, and just doing wonders in the football world now. There's a quote that Evra. There's a quote I'm going to mention about Evra. He's a former Manchester United player. He said something, I think, in relation to about the players being taking care of their bodies and just performing, and the passion being back to the players that is not there right now. He said that if a coach like Ferguson was to coach right now, I think he would go to. He said that Ferguson would go to jail. Because Ferguson is that coach that does not entertain nonsense and laxity and laziness on a pitch, and he will rub it on your face and just disregard your everything that you're trying to put there if you're not performing to the level that he expects. So I feel like he was right.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the current players, very weak players.
The game is a bit too soft now, and I'm not sure if you can blame the players themselves specifically or just ideally the model of the game has completely transformed over the years. I remember watching a documentary, Beckham's documentary, and after one game he kind of argued with Sir Alex. And while they were in the dressing room, Ferguson kicked a boot and it hit him in the head.
The face, yeah.
And if you were to do that right now, I'm sure you'd either be sacked or even be fined or something.
Definitely.
So the game, the overall model of the game has changed now over the years. The game, the players are now a bit more protected, if you can say so. And maybe it has made them a bit softer compared to whatever was happening in a few years ago. So now moving onwards, I hope the players find a way to kind of take care of their bodies and so that they can elongate their careers. Because you look at now, especially a number of players, even younger players, are suffering with very long-term injuries, and you're not really sure how these injuries are going to take a toll on their careers now. Going onwards.
Definitely, that is very right. Now, going back now to the fixtures of the day now, and you're looking forward to see what Modric and Cristiano will be doing to their specific teams, because they are former teammates at Real Madrid, and just these are the notable names in the particular games. I know I'm not writing off the players like Bernardo Silva and Bruno Fernandes and everyone else. I'm just saying that these are the notable ones. You can speak of about and talking about and even age-wise, they are there. The elders in the particular teams there, so you want to see how they'll be performing, and looking forward to this game. It'll be the first game, I think, the earliest kickoff, and then the next game that is going to be, I think the next game. There's something here. I think I have jumped to something. I'm lost. Oh, I've got it back now. Yeah. Another game that I feel like we should be talking about is Spain against Switzerland. Spain having a very good ride at the moment, and they have very young squad and very talented squad right now. And Spain, I feel like Spain is one of the teams that is being to be feared in Europe right now and the world over. And I feel like Switzerland is going to have a very rough night today.
Yeah.
But I'm not writing them off because Switzerland also has a very decent team and very notable names in their squad. Brilembolo, we have the Shakas of this world. We have very good players in this particular team. So what do you make of this game?
It's going to be a tough match, but again, I feel like Spain are the favorites to win the game. You look at the squad, they have the likes of Nico Williams, they have Lamine Yamal, they have Dani Olmo. Yes, they might be missing Rodri, but they still have some notable names in their squad to kind of fill in for his position. They have Merino, who's at Arsenal now. So I feel like Spain are the favorites to win this match, and they're also the favorites as well to kind of win the overall competition. They are one of the top teams in this competition, and one of the clubs to be feared, if I can say so. Yeah.
Definitely. It's going to be a very tough match. Spain against Switzerland, because I feel like many people write off Switzerland in this particular fixture, but I feel like Switzerland have a very, like I said earlier, they have a very good, decent team. They play so well, and I feel like this is a game also to look forward to. Poland versus Scotland, what do you make of that game?
Poland, Scotland. Again, these are two teams who are a bit even. This is kind of a 50-50 game. It's the one match that you can't necessarily predict easily who's going to win. These are two teams who are very notorious, especially for kind of putting up a fight against the big teams, especially Scotland. They have a tendency of frustrating the big names in these kind of competitions. So this is a game that's quite hard to predict. I feel like it's going to be an even game, and the best team is simply going to win.
I think the same sentiments go for Serbia and Denmark. I feel like there's also all preparing. They are very good sides, also decent sides, and I feel like a tough game to predict. Or what do you make of it?
Yeah, very, very tough to predict. And again, they seem like small teams, in quotes, if you can say so, but they have very good players and very good systems in place. So I feel like it's going to be a very end-to-end kind of 50-50 performance.
Definitely. We're looking forward to what these games have to offer us this day. Thanks so much for everyone who's coming in. I'm seeing Emmanuel Mito saying, watching live sports gang Nico on top. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Continue bringing in your sentiments and your contributions to the topics of the day that you're discussing here. And you can also share this broadcast to your friends so that we can all be one big family in the scoreboard here. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody who's watching right now, both on our social media pages, on the mainstream media, that is the television. So thank you so much, and continue sharing. Help us share this broadcast so that we can reach out to many people. And also, don't fail to put on your comment. Thank you. So I'm seeing a lot of people watching. I'm seeing people like Brian. I'm seeing David Njue. Thank you so much. Now, I've also put if you have my number, I've put the link on my WhatsApp status. You can watch from that. I know there are so many people are watching me from home, and they have my number. So do that. So you go on to our comment section, contribute on the topics that we are tackling today, and that will be amazing. Now, that is all we have for the UEFA Nations League. Unless there's something else you have, just to finish up on that, Rodney.
I feel like we've mentioned everything. Yeah.
Now, like I said earlier as we were starting, there was no English Premier League action this weekend, or any other league in Europe, the major leagues that to be specific. But there were still many stories about the teams here. And the first, the main story for today is Ruben Amorim finally. Today is his first day on at Carrington training ground. He takes the mantle officially today and on to his first training session today. What do you make about Ruben Amorim and everything that has happened to his appointment as the Manchester United coach? Not a manager, he's a coach. And what do you see from him, or what change do you expect from him in this Manchester United squad?
A lot of people have, again, high expectations for how he's going to run the team, the kind of tactics he's going to put in place.
And before that, and I think many people are anticipating so much from this game, especially this Ruben Amorim coach. He had I just want you to also tackle. We want to tackle this as a package, as a whole. He had a press conference last week whereby he talked about his tactics. He talked about what to look forward to, how he feels about Old Trafford, and just how happy he is that he's a coach for Manchester United. And just basing just putting in mind that he was an intern. A coach intern at Manchester United during the tenure of Mourinho, I think maybe 6 to 7 years ago. An intern when he was starting his coaching, starting off from his coaching career. So this is an environment that he's so familiar with. He's not new to England, new to Manchester United because he was there before as an intern, a coach intern. And I feel like, so going back to the point, what do you expect from him? Now you just join with the interview you had last week.
Yeah. So I did watch his interview over the weekend, and he was talking about some of his experiences at Old Trafford, which he said wasn't very good as a player because he came there when he was playing for Braga and he lost. So now coming in as Manchester United manager, it's a very big achievement for him, if you can say so, because he's not one of the big names that you can say in the managerial space, apart from when maybe now considering now the Champions League competitions and whatnot. So now coming into a club the size of Manchester United, it's obviously a huge task for him. And now considering the kind of position that Manchester United are in the Premier League and even in other competitions, they've been struggling over the years. So now hopefully he can come in and bring back the club to its glory days. I don't want to put too much pressure on him to kind of say now he has to win the Premier League, he has to win this and that trophy. I don't have such kind of high expectations at the moment. At the moment, for me, the biggest achievement for him would be maybe a top 4 and maybe one of the Europa League or the FA Cup trophies. That would be, let's say, a successful season. That would count as a successful season for him. And one thing that I'm quite curious to see is obviously his tactics. A lot of people have been talking about his infamous 3-4-3. So I'm curious to see if he's going to implement that now in his first match at Ipswich during the weekend. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to.
Definitely, everybody in the footballing world is looking at what Amorim is going to do to Manchester United in regards to performances, especially at his first game this coming weekend, whereby he'll be playing against Ipswich. But there's something, I listened to his interview, and there's something I felt like there's a difference between his mentality and Ten Hag's mentality, especially when in regards to young players. Ten Hag used to say that the young players need time to integrate and just get their form into the team. But Ruben has said, there's one thing he said, and I feel like I loved it so much, and I feel like this is the mentality Manchester United needed in their team. He said that whether young or old, when you play for Manchester United, you need to rise to the occasion, because he talked about how massive the team is, how respected, how huge it is as a team, and the expectation that is needed in that team. And he says that any player playing for Manchester United, he should be up to the task, and that is the mentality you want to see. Or what do you make of that? Because as Manchester United, the players that Ferguson left Manchester United in, it was a very crucial. Of course, it was to become very difficult for any coach coming into Manchester United post for Sir Alex Ferguson. Yeah. And we have seen that from every coach that has come in. Almost 5 coaches or 6 coaches after Sir Alex Ferguson, and none of them has made it past 3 seasons.
Yeah.
This is a coach now coming in with a different mentality and saying. And there's one thing he said, that as much as a new coach needs time, but time can be sustained by good results. That's what he said, and that is what you want to see. That is what you want to see. That's the mentality you want to instill into players who play for Manchester United. So, what does that make you feel? I know you're a Manchester United fan. Yeah. How does that make you feel as a fan?
It's quite encouraging, and there's this quote that says, okay, a number of players usually quote that as long as you're old enough, you're good enough.
Ferguson.
In as much as you might not be as big or as elderly as the other players, as long as you have what it takes to be a Manchester United player or to wear that kit, then you're good enough to be on that pitch. Because if you look at now, if you were to go back over the years, you remember the likes of Rooney, who was signed at I think 17 or 18, and he came and he featured in the first team. You look at Beckham, who came in from the academy as a very young player, and he ended up featuring alongside the likes of Giggs, the likes of
Nevers.
So this is the kind of tradition that we hope we can see making a return at Manchester United. We have a number of young players right now. We have the likes of Harry Amas, we have the likes of Kobe Mainoo, we have the likes of Garnacho, and in times when we have especially an injury crisis, the one thing that we kind of struggled is kind of bringing these young players into our first team. But now if we have a manager who can kind of integrate these two, both young and experienced players, then we shouldn't really have such kind of issues. And now moving onwards, I hope we can see these kind of young talents being featured into the team so that we don't have a scenario where our young talents have to leave our team to go play, to look for playing time in other clubs.
Definitely. And coming to England at a very young age for Amorim, he's only 39 years old, very young for a coach, especially for he's the youngest ever Manchester United coach since the time of Busby. And at a very young age as a coach, and he's just coming up, and the wonders he has done for Sporting Lisbon in the past 2 seasons. And we know that England is a different ball game, especially when it comes to media, especially in relation to Manchester United, because the media do not come soft on Manchester United managers. So, do you feel like he's up to the task with that? Because he's very young, of course, very young, and coming in at a time whereby Manchester United is in crisis, not in the best of positions, not in the best of environments in Manchester United. Coming in when just a regime has been changed, whereby we have new owners coming in, and there's so much expectations on these shoulders. It's coming into a team that is very much disintegrated, a team that maybe what people say in the fans and the media say that very many lazy players in that particular team. Do you think, as a fan, do you think that he fits the profile of a coach that you would want in such a particular team?
As a fan, yes, and even as an analyst, from the perspective of an analyst, I feel like he matches that profile perfectly. During his interview, he said specifically that he would defend his players if he has to. Should he be put in that kind of situation, and it's something that we've been seeing, especially this season and even last season, where a number of Manchester United players are being criticized by the media for things that you can say are very petty, if I can say so. Over the weekend, we've seen a lot of backlash for Marcus Rashford for attending a basketball match. So it's kind of questionable whatever is happening with the media over in the English country. So now that we have a manager, hopefully, who can kind of be a bit stern to the media team now in terms of protecting the identity of the club and even his own players. One thing that Ten Hag kind of started with but now eventually fell off is he kind of lost that kind of control he had. He would be a bit run over with the media, and he would a bit compromise a bit. Now that we have a new manager, hopefully we can get someone who can be a bit stern and stiff with them. Now coming into a club of the size of Manchester United, it's something that I hope he sticks to is his principles. If he feels like 3-4-3 is his own thing, I feel like I hope he sticks to that, and if he needs new players, then it's up to him to go to the board and say, I need a new player here and here and here, because the one thing that I think led to Ten Hag's failure is he came in with his own principles and ideologies, but now going onwards in the Premier League, he got to a point where he was a bit scared that he might not be able to implement them into the club, and he kind of went to default settings to just try and rescue his own career instead of now sticking to whatever principles he had coming into Manchester United. Because you look at managers like Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham. I think last season there was one particular game against Chelsea where a lot of people criticized him for sticking to a high line when they were 2 men down on the pitch. But that's something that you put in a bit of discipline in your players, that no matter what happens, we stick to the game plan and we play according to whatever you've been taught. You look at teams like Arsenal, you look at teams like Liverpool now, they have a very clear and obvious style of play, which is something that we've lacked for a few years now. So now hopefully Amorim can come in and bring a bit of a change in our club.
Definitely. That's the hope for every Manchester United fan. And we hope to see Manchester rise. We hope, as other fans, anybody, as much as we might deny it, but it's sweeter when Manchester is at the top, because at least for both the haters and the lovers, because it brings that competition at the top of the table. Now, Amorim is lucky because it's coming in at a time whereby I feel like most injured players are coming back. We have notable players like Lenny Yoro. We have players like Luke Shaw might. We have people like this guy, number 7, Mount is coming back. We have players like Malacia is coming back. So he's almost getting a full team to pick from for his first squad or for his first 11. So I think he's lucky. And just the other day I saw Lisandro Martinez, who was given, I think, who was provided with a 1 week off with his family in Argentina, but decided to come back to have a session with to train with the new coach. So I feel like he inspires a new fire into the players. I feel that's what it is right now. Yeah. He inspires a new fire into the players, and they just want to play for him. And I hope they do justice for him. But finally, when we're finishing up with Ruben Amorim, what do you make of players? What do you think players like Rashford, who have been deemed lazy, of course, players like Rashford, you have players like Zagzi. What do you think they have a chance in this particular team?
I think they have 6 months. Yeah, 6 months now to kind of make a name for themselves and make a point to prove themselves to the manager that I deserve to be at this club and to play for the manager. So these are professional players, and I think as the club was conducting the business during the summer for Zagzi, who was signed, and for Rashford, who is an academy player who graduated into the first team, these are players who know what it means to play for a club of that size. And I feel like these are players who can easily take instructions from a manager. They are players who can play under a system depending on whatever the manager requires. So now it's basically up to them. I feel like it's now up to them to kind of prove a point and make a name for themselves, to impress the manager, so that the manager won't have to get to the point of having to now look for replacements in the market.
And just to another person who stayed in Manchester United, but right now is not there, Paul Pogba. His contract with Juventus was terminated, and definitely he's looking for a team. Right now he's training in Miami, and there were some talks here and there that he will be coming back to train at the Carrington. The sentiments that he refuted and said that was not, he was not even in talks with Manchester United, and he says that right now he's still looking for a team, and the club that he'll be training with in January is the time that he'll be signing for when it comes to March, because his ban will be ending in March, I think. So what do you make of Pogba and his journey of football, with every controversial aspect of his life in relation to football? What do you think about? Do you think Pogba is still up to the task to play at the highest level, or right now he should be playing in teams maybe in America or Saudi Arabia or China? Because I feel right now he's, I think, 31 years. 31 years. He's almost at the brink of retirement. Do you think he still has it? He has the legs to play at the highest level?
I think there's still a player in there. I can genuinely say that I'm still one of his biggest fans, and I'm looking forward to the day he returns to football. Whether it's at Manchester United or not, we'll get to see. But I still think that he still has a few years in him, and whichever club he goes to, I feel like there's a few players who can learn from him. He was one of the greatest talents in football, whether in the Premier League or Serie A, where he went to Juventus. So I'm looking forward to the day he comes back to football, and if it is at Manchester United, there's a few players who can learn a few things from him, the likes of Kobe Mainoo, and if not, then whichever club he goes to, I'll still be looking up to him and following up on him.
Now, and would you want him at Manchester United?
Would I?
Yeah.
It depends. Not as a starting player, as someone who can be kind of a coach for our younger midfield players, but not necessarily as the dependent in our midfield.
That is Paul Pogba, who now searches for a team that will be playing with after termination of his contract with Juventus in the past week. Now, the English Premier League now will be coming back this weekend. And there are notable games that are going to be played. Fixtures already are out about the games that are going to be played in this particular. Do you have the fixtures?
Yes.
You guys just help us on that front about the fixtures.
Okay. So on Saturday we have Leicester and Chelsea, who are the early kickoff. We have Arsenal versus Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa against Crystal Palace, Bournemouth versus Brighton, Everton against Brentford, Fulham against Wolves, and then finally Man City against Spurs. And then on Sunday we'll have Southampton against Liverpool, and then Ipswich against Man United. On Monday, finally we'll have Newcastle against West Ham.
Yes, those are the games that are going to play this weekend in the English Premier League. And some notable games here, some good games here. I feel like we should be talking about them. The first game of the weekend will be Leicester against Chelsea, which of course anyone else will say that this one is a very easy game for Chelsea, because Leicester have not been performing so well in recent times, coming from a loss to Manchester United in the last game. Do you think Chelsea this one is going to be an easy game for Chelsea?
Not necessarily, especially going by the fact that, okay, I'm a huge believer that early kickoff games are not the easiest, especially in the Premier League.
Especially for the top teams?
Yeah, especially for the top teams. Those are some of the matches that kind of decide whatever happens.
And before that, I feel like being an early, like you have said, these are not the easiest games, the easiest fixtures when it comes to early kickoff in regards to this top teams. And I feel like this one Leicester is going to give Chelsea a run for its money. And for Chelsea, I feel like there are some aspects. I think as much as they are in a good form right now, you can say so. If you think they're in a good form, I feel like there are some aspects of their game that are not clicking so well, and I feel like they're not so much clinical up front, especially the English Premier League. Forget the Carabao Cup where they won with a very big margin. When it comes to the English, the EPL, I think in the last game they played, they drew against Arsenal, 1-1 game and they scored in the last minutes. I feel like just still coming back from another draw with Manchester United, and I feel like they're not so much clinical with their front line. And do you think we are going to see a rejuvenated Chelsea after this international break?
I think they're going to come back with a bit of a fire in them, and hopefully their players can kind of turn up to that match, because I don't think it's going to be an easy win, especially considering that Leicester haven't had the best of performances in their last few fixtures. So going into this game, I feel like Leicester are still going to have a point to prove. We're yet to know if the main man up front, Jamie Vardy, is going to be back. He usually has kind of an eye to score against the top clubs. So we'll get to see now once the weekend comes. But overall, it could be an easy win for Chelsea, considering if you were to just directly compare these two clubs, it looks on paper like it's going to be an easy win for Chelsea, but we'll find out once we can get here.
Yeah, for the Chelsea fans, notably, we have people like Teddy, people like Ngori and Cynthia. Do you think you're going to win against Leicester? Now, this being a very an early kickoff, and we know the history of early kickoffs with these teams. So put it down on our comment section. I will read them as we continue. Another tough game that's going to be played is Arsenal against Nottingham Forest. I'm calling this a tough game because Nottingham Forest has come out to be one of the teams that should be feared. I know they did not perform well in the last game they played. I think they lost.
I think so.
I think they lost in the last game, and so they have a point to prove. And now they're coming into an Arsenal that has not also been performing so well in the recent times, and they're not in the form that we expect Arsenal to be in the last 2 years. Do you think Arsenal will topple Nottingham Forest? Do you think they can beat Nottingham Forest at the moment? Based on the fact that Nottingham Forest is one of the teams that has had a very good run since this league started, despite the fact that they lost in the previous game.
As I've said, this is going to be a very tough fixture. And if you look at the league, especially the league table, you have one club over there in the top, let me say top 5 that ideally isn't usually there, which is Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
This season it seems like they have a point to prove. They are there to make a name for themselves, and a few people are saying they might pull Leicester, who won the Premier League a few years ago. I'm not too sure about that, especially if you look at Liverpool, who have kind of cemented their position at number 1. But again, Nottingham could be a team to watch, especially this season. I wouldn't be surprised if they manage to qualify either for the Champions League or the European competitions, Europa League especially. So going into this game, it's definitely going to be a tough fixture. As I said a bit earlier, Trossard had to come out of the Belgium game because of an injury. So, and as you remember, is it last week, during the game against Chelsea, Saka got injured, Rice got injured. So we're yet to know the fate of these players. So going into this game, hopefully they can get their full squad back. But because if not, it's going to be quite a difficult fixture for them, because Nottingham are a notorious team for kind of upsetting the big teams. Yeah.
Another game that I feel like we should be talking about here is the game pitting Bournemouth against Brighton. Two good sides, two very good sides, and Bournemouth being a shocker this season because they also just like Nottingham Forest, they're putting out good results, especially having won against Arsenal, having won against Man City.
Brighton.
Yeah, no, Bournemouth. Bournemouth having won against some notable teams in the league, and Brighton also pulling in some good performances since the league started. Of course, they continue with their form that they had last season. What do you make of this game?
Definitely going to be a very tough fixture, and as you've said, these are two teams who have pulled some surprising results this season. I look at Bournemouth beating two of the biggest clubs, if I can say so. You have Brighton, who also beat Manchester United a few weeks ago. So going into this game, it's again going to be a very tough fixture. It's one game that I can't really decide or pick a team who's going to easily win the game. But I feel like Brighton have a slight advantage over Bournemouth. If you look at the performance-wise, but Bournemouth are also up to the task, considering that they've beat two of the Premier League heavyweights, who are Arsenal and Man City. So going into this fixture, these are two teams who have a point to prove, if I can say so, this season, and it's a bit tough to kind of call whichever team is going to win this game.
Another team that maybe I feel like has shocked many with the performances is Fulham, and it will be playing against Wolves. Fulham having come back in the previous game and managed a win, and I feel like another tough game here because Wolves also are not just a team, a pushover, and this is another game that I feel like is very much unpredictable, with the full form with Fulham, with Wolves also being in the picture now. What do you make of this game?
Again, another tough fixture because I look at Wolves. Wolves won the last match 2-0, and Fulham won the last match again 2-0. And these are two clubs who are usually in the Premier League. They're not at the very top.
Yeah.
But then again, they're also not at the, let me say, the relegation side of the league. But they're very even teams. It's a match that, again, you can't really call. It just depends on whichever club is going to really turn up to that game and come in at the very best of their play.
I feel like this is going to be a very tough week for Panthers, the people who bet, because I feel like most of these games here, if at all it is going to be the mega jackpot, most of us are not sure which way the matches will be going. So I feel like this is a very tough week for Panthers. And I hope you gain something from whatever you stake. Now, to a game that I feel like is the biggest game this weekend, Man City against Tottenham. The biggest fixture this weekend. And Man City not doing so well, having lost the previous fixture. Spurs, of course, coming back and showing what they're made of. Of course, with Spurs, there is no consistency. That's what we can talk about. We can say about Spurs. But now, they won their last game before the international breaks. What do you make of this game? Basically, the fact that Man City is not in their best of forms right now. They're struggling a lot. And Spurs, of course, being the one team that you cannot predict whether they're going to win or not. What do you make of this game?
As you've said, it's going to be a very tough fixture for either team. And these are two teams who haven't been at their very best this season. And usually this is a fixture that Tottenham tends to kind of shine. I'm not really sure whatever happens at that club, but whenever they play against Man City, they always turn into prime Real Madrid or Barcelona. So going into this fixture, these are two clubs who haven't had the best of runs or form in the Premier League, especially, and it's going to be a case of whichever club turns up to that match will easily win. It's not going to be a straight win that you can easily call. It's going to be Man City or Tottenham, but it's going to be down to the best club is going to win the game.
Definitely, and we're looking forward to this match because, like I said earlier, it's the biggest fixture of the weekend and a very unpredictable one. And because of the fact that Tottenham, of course, bringing in mixed results this season, like always, of course, and Man City not being in their best form. But of course, this is a game that Man City can rise to the occasion because the Haaland factor, I feel like after the hat-trick he scored yesterday for Norway, I think that one gives him the morale now to want to perform. And I feel like this is a week that we will see the best of Haaland, maybe. Yeah. Maybe. I'm saying maybe because
considering that they have a few of their key players back, the likes of Kevin De Bruyne. You have, I think Foden is also back, so it could be a good fixture for Man City.
Definitely, and I hope. May the best team win because I'm not a fan of either. So whichever comes, whichever way it goes, I feel like there's no threat here. And Southampton against Liverpool, I feel this one is it's an easy game for Liverpool. Yeah. Very easy game for Liverpool. What do you say about that?
It is an easy win for Liverpool, and I think it just further cements their position at the top of the league, especially if you compare the kind of fixtures that their rivals are playing. You look at Man City against Tottenham, you look at Arsenal against Nottingham. It kind of gives them an opportunity to widen that gap at the very top. So I think it's just going to be a straight win for Liverpool. Southampton haven't been at par in the Premier League this season. They've had some very poor performances, if I can say so. So I just think it's going to be an easy win for Liverpool.
Definitely, I concur with you. It's a very easy fixture for Liverpool. We can call them the high-riding Liverpool because they're performing so well, and Salah has been so much into our faces and onto our mouth lately for this season because he's performing like literally. You can think that this may be his last season at Liverpool. You may think of that because he's giving out his best, giving out the performances, the goals in him, the assists in him. So I feel like it's a Crystal Palace fixture. So maybe to an extent it's a difficult game, maybe to an extent. Because Crystal Palace also, I feel like they're not a pushover. As much as they're not performing their best, in their best, the best they could. But I feel like, first and foremost, this is going to be a very tough fixture for them. Yeah. Unless you have something to say about that.
I think it's an even fixture. These are two fixtures. These are two clubs who are, again, a bit 50-50. You can't really predict an easy win for either side. But I think Aston Villa going into this game have a bit of an upper hand. If you were to compare league positions for these two clubs.
On to a game that everybody wants to know what the outcome. On to a game that everybody is looking forward to. On to a game that every hater just wants to see them lose. On to a game that every Manchester United fan wants to see what the coach has to do. Ipswich against Manchester United. What do you make of this game? Because I feel this is a game that every footballing eye will be on this particular game on Sunday. And this is a game that introduces the Amorim as the coach for Manchester United. This is a game that every fan wants to see. The playing style of Manchester United right now. Do we have an instant impact now? Based on the fact that Manchester has just come from a good run in the last four games, I think, with the interim coach, which is a story we're going to talk about as we finish up. First of all, what do you make of this game and everything surrounding this game?
This is, on one hand, it's a bit of a tough fixture, but on the other hand, it's a fixture that I'm really looking forward to, considering that over the summer, the Ipswich manager, Kieran McKenna, was one of the managers who was on the short list for Manchester United.
And he's been a coach I think there's a time he was an assistant coach to Manchester United. Yeah, so he knows these teams in and out, literally.
So it's a game that I'm really looking forward to, because it's like two managers who are being looked at for Manchester United going against each other. It's only that we managed to get another one. Now, going into this game, it's, as you've said, it's a game that all eyes will be on. Even the people who might not necessarily be Manchester United fans, or even our biggest haters, if you can say so, are definitely going to be tuned into this game. And it's a match that I'm really hoping that Manchester United will turn up to. And I feel like we will. It's kind of in our DNA. We kind of have this thing of turning up whenever we have new managers.
Exactly.
Our players usually have this thing of kind of going out there to prove a point. So I think it's going to be a win for Manchester United. The one thing that I'm really looking forward to in particular is whatever tactics Ruben Amorim is going to employ, and especially whatever team he's going to choose for that specific fixture. He was asked during his interview about whatever team we can expect during the weekend, but he said he'll choose the team that he feels like is going to perform. It might not necessarily make us happy, or it could annoy some, but he's going to pick the team that he feels like is going to give him the result at the end of the day. So he might not have a lot of time to train with the team. It's only been, it'll actually be, I think, a week, because he's starting today and the game is on Sunday.
Of course,
And majority of the players are just returning, though we have a few are going to be playing today. So he only has a very short period of time to train with these players and kind of instill a few new things in them. But hopefully by the time we get to the match day, we can see a bit of impact or a bit of his ideologies in the club.
Definitely. And I'm inclined to ask this question. What do you think What do you think of Bruno Fernandes under this coach? Because a little body tells me that Bruno is one of the players that suggested this coach. That was so much rooting for Amorim to come, and because in the past I've heard him talk so positively about Ruben Amorim before even Erik ten Hag being Erik ten Hag sacking. So like among all these players, Bruno is the happiest. And now there's also a player like in Ugarte who has been coached by this coach at Sporting. So like what do you see about Bruno? Right now we are seeing Bruno is so much on form, scoring both on the club level and the international level. What does it make for? What does it say about Bruno now, having this coach now that he has been rooting for the longest time? What are you expecting from Bruno after this?
I expect him to be at his best, if I can say so. I hope we can see most of whatever he does at the international level, because the criticism that a lot of people have had, especially under Ten Hag's managerial period, is that whenever Bruno goes to the international competitions, he tends to shine more as compared to when he was at the club.
Yeah.
And Personally, I feel like it was down to more of a tactical issue, because if you look at wherever he used to play under Ten Hag is completely different to wherever he plays at Portugal. So now that we have a manager who kind of understands the kind of player that Bruno is, hopefully we can get someone who can use him to his maximum advantage and play him where he can give us the maximum impact in the game. And especially, as you've mentioned, players like Ugarte, again under Ten Hag opted to bench him in the name of he was not ready for the Premier League. But now,
because on Monday we'll be here to analyze everything, especially this particular fixture and this particular team, because every Manchester United fan is happy and just talking as if everything has changed just in a fortnight. But let us see what it will be and how it will be. Many people will say that he's lucky because he's getting an easier team and an easier fixture, because people feel like Ipswich will be is somehow a very not at par with Manchester United, especially when you based on the fact that in the last 2-3 games Manchester United has shown some signs of seriousness. So I think as much as we are deeming it as an easy fixture, this is a fixture that even Ipswich will want to upset anyone that comes their way, and especially the McKenna factor that is the coach to Ipswich. I think he would want to show that he will if at all he was chosen for this work, he would have been up to the task. So I think this is a very tough fixture, fixture on paper. Now, the last game will be Newcastle against West Ham, but I don't feel there's so much to talk about because of time also. I want to talk about the last thing here. Like I said, we're talking about Ruud van Nistelrooy. Came in as an assistant coach, brought in by Ten Hag, took the bags after Ten Hag was sacked and became the interim coach. Did so well because he came out with 100%. He did not come with a lot. He came out with 100% wins in the league, and one draw. And 3 wins, right? Yeah. So very good performances, based on the fact that we were coming out of very poor performance. Manchester United was coming out of very poor series of performances. He's left because of the fact that we may not know. And some people, there were some whispers that maybe he was in line to take over Coventry.
Yeah.
What do you make of Ruud van Nistelrooy leaving Manchester United at a very good place because he brought about good performances? What do you make about him leaving Manchester right now? Do you think Amorim would be better if he stayed back to as an assistant to Amorim?
First of all, a huge thank you to him because I think he's kind of brought back temporarily. He's brought back that kind of passion or desire that kind of disappeared under Ten Hag, especially this season specifically. And considering that he's played against good teams, the likes of Chelsea, and he managed to get a few points here and there, he's put us in a bit of a better position. Not necessarily against the top clubs, but at least we're in a position now to kind of recover and fight once again. Now, I understand a few people who kind of wanted him to stay at the club, but I personally think that the board themselves came to a decision where they didn't want people to just kind of have this honeymoon dream, where we just want to stick with this player, let me say assistant manager, simply because there could be instances of maybe favorism, and I think they just wanted a kind of a clean slate. Let's start all over again. The same way they had this rejuvenation of Ineos, where they brought a completely new structure over there. They kind of wanted the same for the managerial position. So now moving onwards, I believe you've seen that Amorim came in with all his assistant managers from Sporting, the 5 of them. So I think they just wanted someone who would come in with his own principles and ideas, and he would have people who he would entrust to have the same vision with him. So now moving onwards, they have someone who can kind of implement whatever they want as the board, and even as a manager, he has people who can kind of bring the same dream and vision with him.
Definitely, and he's been boosted by the fact that all the coaches that he was with at Sporting Lisbon have all been brought in to help him in saving this ship that was almost sinking due to waves. And I feel like he has nothing to. He has got nothing to fear. Nothing. I think because the coaches that he had previously are the same coaches that he's been given also at Manchester United. So I don't think. Okay, I'm looking forward to what he will do because he cannot. He has got nothing to say that I lacked this and this, And I feel like I heard from his interview he said that he had no pressure. He was so relaxed about everything, which shows that he's confident about what he can bring to the team. And he talked about an instant performance and instant results. So I'm looking forward to it now. Any last sentiments as we close up the show today?
Overall, I would just like to say a huge thank you to everyone who has joined us today. Thank you for all your comments, all your reactions. Thank you for sparing your time to watch us, and I wish you a blessed week, a blessed day, and I just want to mention something. I don't know how many of you are the believers of the conspiracies, but there's something that I saw that in 1986, Manchester United had just 12 points after 10 games. And that's when they hired Alex Ferguson, who had only managed in Scotland. In 2024, Manchester United had 12 points after 10 games. And they hired Ruben Amorim, who had only managed in Portugal. So, put 2 and 2 together. Hopefully we can see 21, hashtag 21.
Nice. That was an amazing conspiracy. I feel it's a conspiracy. Anyway, are you ready for? Are you thinking what he's thinking? Thank you so much for everybody. Now, in a show that anyone without dreads was a no-show. Today was a dreadlock show. Everybody here has a dreadlock, so definitely. Thank you so much for everyone who has kept tabs on us. Everybody who has watched the show, everyone who has reacted to the show, everyone who has supported us. We are so grateful about it. And as we bring down the contents to this show, I just want to wish you a very amazing week. Have a very good week as we anticipate for the resumption of the English Premier League and the Kenya Premier League here back at home. And see you next week's. Same time, same place from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And hopefully by then, everyone will be back in the studio. We're talking about Manu and Teddy. Hopefully we will see you then. Have a very amazing week and amazing evening at large. God bless you. Bye.